Welcome to the Half-Blood Report.
Here we discuss Percy Jackson news, interviews, and all things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host.
And this week we have a really amazing guest.
Yep, Roshani Chokshi is here again to talk with us about the newest Pandava book, Aru Shah and the City of Gold. Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a blast last time, and I'm excited all over again.
Awesome. So
we are excited to have you back.
Yes. So how has the online tour been going so far?
Oh my gosh, it's been great. It's been vaguely overwhelming in a way. It's so odd to me because this is my third book to come out in a pandemic, which I hate. But, the good thing about it at least has just been, it reminding me that there are people reading these stories, that the year that I spent just talking to my cat with a blanket over my head has not been for nothing. So that feels really special.
Yeah, because it was the last time we talked to you for the Aru Shah and the Song of Death. And then you released...
No, that was the Tree of Wishes, Diego.
Oh, the Tree of Wishes. My bad.
Yeah.
Look at me.
And
then it was the Silvered Serpents, wasn't it?
Yes.
I read that book as well, and we are including a question about that.
Oh, I bet you caught the thing. Did you catch the thing? Well, we'll get to it.
But yeah, how has it? Obviously, it's not your normal tour, and as you've mentioned, you have some experience with it. But is it getting any better the third time around?
No, if anything, it just gets more depressing. You're just like, my goodness, I miss human beings. I am very much. I know I really do need to work on this, but as an author, actually, as a human being, I'm just bad at boundaries. So if I meet someone, I'm like, oh my God. And then I hug you and then I try to feed you and all sorts of things. People are like, stop doing that. I'm like, I'm sorry. So I really miss that like human interaction with readers. I miss seeing people. I miss seeing them dress up. But tomorrow, for the first time in more than a year, I actually get to have my first in-person signing. And I mean, it's outside and we will all be masked. And I just am recently fully vaccinated. So that's really exciting. So
Yay.
I feel like there is good things on the horizon. So that is good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think as a kind of follow-up question to that, obviously sitting underneath a blanket with a cat may not be your standard writing process. Has the pandemic affected that in any way, or is it pretty much the same?
In a very, very odd way. Well, my husband and I are both very fortunate. I mean, neither of us got COVID that we know of, at least. Our family members are all safe, and we're close enough to our family that it was that we were able to see them outside and all that kind of stuff. So truthfully, the pandemic was a very interesting time for me to reset. And I honestly think that had I maintained my usual tour schedule and my usual travel obligations, I don't think that I would have been able to finish Aru Shah and the City of Gold on time. I mean, I literally wrote it last summer, and then I had to write the last book in my young adult trilogy at the same time. And then somewhere in between that, I found the time to write a completely different book. And I don't know. So there's a lot of stuff that just sort of happened, like time that freed up on my hands. So I guess it's a roundabout way of saying that the pandemic allowed me to be more productive, but way more productive, but at the risk.
Tell us your secrets.
Here's a sad secret. The pandemic robbed me of a sense of time. There was nothing to look forward to. So it just felt like every single day was the same. And little by little, I don't know, like the only place to really lose myself in, because I couldn't travel and I couldn't go on these, our normal, my husband and I love traveling, and we couldn't, do all of that to the usual extent. So I just lost myself in work. And that was literally it. It's kind of sad when I think about it.
Yeah.
But the books I'm very proud of.
Yeah, the book has
Well, you should be.
certainly
They're great.
had me thinking for a bit.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that you guys like them.
The mwah wah 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 at the end. I heard it in your voice. I was like, dang it.
Um, I guess speaking about books coming out during the pandemic, I don't know if how far it'll be, but do you want to tell us about your Cursed Carnival story?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So where is it? I have it, the arc lying somewhere around here. So
Ooh.
the thing is, I feel like I wrote that short story in a fugue state, so I don't even remember. I think it takes place after book 3, but to be honest, I cannot. No, it can't take place after book 3. That's physically impossible. Right? It's like, darn it. Sorry, guys. It's another 2.5 story.
It's an alternate universe limbo state Aru Shah
Yeah.
short story.
Exactly.
It's not that I'm not allowed to tell you about it. It's that I can't tell you about it.
just have no idea what happened in it. I imagine it was fun. So I hope you like it.
Oh, that's great.
It will probably be very awesome. You mentioned that you were working on a totally different book. Can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming projects?
Oh, okay. Well, so you know how I hate being the author that's like, guys, I'm not allowed to talk about it, but like literally legally I can't. Like I will get in a lot of trouble. But I will say, these past, oh gosh, so we're actually coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the very, very first book that we were able to publish, which is The Star-Touched Queen. And it's this, Hindu mythology mixed with a Hades and Persephone style romance. It was a joy to write and very, I don't know, very deeply personal in a lot of ways. Not that I have any experience like casually being the queen of the undead, alas, but so much has changed in that time. This is the year where I'm coming to the end of 2 big series that essentially changed my life. I mean, writing the Aru Shah series was life-changing. Writing the Gilded Wolves trilogy opened me up to a whole new group of readers. And I felt that, I don't know, a couple months ago, I just remembered feeling that maybe I've said all that I can for a little while. And in like children's literature, perhaps. There is one story that keeps kicking around at the back of my head that I need to write for my mom because she's Filipino and she's mad at me that I haven't written her anything. But the truth is, Mom, your folklores are freaking terrifying. Okay. I can't even write a sentence without having a nightmare. I'm thinking Manananggal is going to come get me and Aswang is going to climb through the window and just drink my blood. And that's the end of it. So yeah, I don't know. So I'm working on that. And I've been thinking a lot about, just in terms of spending so many years writing about mythology and writing about fairy tales, I really was curious about why we need them so much and what would happen if I tried to write a thriller that thought it was a fairy tale. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh.
You guys are like 15 or 14 and 16. You cannot read this book. I swear. Like, you cannot read it. Or if you read it, you can't tell me that you read it. I'll
Okay.
Oops. Legally again. Yeah. What were you saying? Ooh, no, we were saying ew.
Yeah,
Because
no,
we're not gonna read that for sure.
That's what we were saying. We were saying no, never, no.
These things can traumatize you. You don't understand. When I was a kid, when I was your age, 1,000 years ago, somebody gave me the book Flowers in the Attic because they thought it was about botany, but that book is not about botany at all. It's like, you should. It's a lot. You're like, oh my God, what the heck is happening in this story? This is not appropriate for children. Anyway.
Also weird, they thought you would enjoy a novel about botany.
I think they just those well-meaning family friends, she is just not good at school, but she seems to like books. Maybe we'll just see if eventually we can trick her into liking the sciences, and it never happened. But
so slightly off topic, I did mention we were going to ask about it. What can you tell us about Gilded Wolves 3? I wrote in the script here that I had to change that to the actual name, but I didn't get around to doing that.
Yeah, the actual name is The Bronzed Beasts. I
Ooh.
am awful at coming up with titles, and so I actually one of our close friends, we were just like sitting outside roasting a marshmallow in July. I don't know why we were doing that, and I was like, "Do we really need s'mores? This is s'mores weather," but we ate it anyway. And I was telling him about the book, and he came up with the title. But yeah, so Bronzed Beast. What can I tell you about it? So, well, you guys are both writers too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we've written
We've
stories. Not
yes,
not
we've
quite
written
a
before.
5-book trilogy for Rick
Not
Riordan
yet.
Presents, but
Not yet, but those sort of things you'll find books take up space in your skull and in your imagination with the more experiences that you have. The more traveling that you do, you fall in love for the first time, you fall out of love really fast, all kinds of whatever. These are the things that spark stories. So, for the Bronzed Beast, we were actually on our honeymoon and we were in Venice for a couple days. And I remembered thinking that I'd never experienced a place that was so magical and haunted and eerie as Venice. It's this almost floating city. It looks like it's carved all out of marble. You look on the doorways and they've got the faces of dead gods grinning back at you, angel wings flung across a bridge. It's a
oh
place
wow.
where at midnight, no, I'm serious. It's the kind of place where if you were to walk across the bridge at midnight, you would be very, very certain that perhaps by the time you got to the end of it, you would be in another world entirely. And the reason I asked if whether you were writers is because when you are a writer, you can do things called tax write-offs. So wherever you do want to travel or wherever places become research, you get a tax write-off on it. So sometimes I find that when I don't know what to write about, I'll revisit where I went and how it was research and how I didn't quite realize it. So, well, so
Vacation. What do you mean?
vacation. Is this a vacation or a research trip? It's both. I just don't know how yet. Give me the stars.
These stones, they really speak to me.
This is a fun thing that you can say when you're professional.
um
This
so so
this is kind of definitely switching the topic a bit more, but
Mhm.
um, there's probably very little you can say at this point. But
Yes.
any hints about the Aru Shah movies?
We actually had some movement.
Ooh,
Yeah, so for the
movement.
we have a director that's attached to it,
Mhm.
and we last time I spoke to them, uh, they said, they're trying to fix up a couple other projects, and then what they're going to do is basically email me, and we're going to try to break down the scenes one by one and figure out how they best translate into film. So it seems like as much as things can be, I think things are moving along at the pace they should be going at. Does that make
That's
sense?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a lot more than we expected to hear.
Yeah.
We're so used to the Rick Riordan. Nothing I can tell you.
I probably shouldn't tell you. I don't know. It's just, who knows? I barely finished a cup of coffee. So you guys are just like getting all my secrets.
Well, I think with that we can kind of move into some more plot based questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will put a little spoiler alert here.
Spoiler.
So yeah, we are now officially in book 4 spoilers.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, I mean, do you want to tell us about the Sal and Gabby cameo and when any other Easter eggs that are in the book?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I really do mean this when I say that the entire Rick Riordan Presents authors were very close. I mean, like we do like talk, we do email. Um, I feel like I'm always on the phone with Jen Cervantes, and it's the worst because she'll text me and be like, "Do you have 10 minutes?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, sure, I've got 10 minutes." And then 2 hours go by and I'm like, "What's happened? Why did we lose all this time?"
Where has the time gone?
Time gone. Yeah, she's the best. But Carlos Hernandez is probably a walking, living beam of sunshine. And I remember that what was it? I think maybe it's the sequel of Sal and Gabby. He snuck in a reference to Aru Shah. And
Spider-Man PJs.
yes, 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 yes. And I just wanted to return the favor, but just like do a nod back. It was the first time that I got to do that in a story, and I've actually left a couple placeholders in book 5 where I'm hoping that I can nod to certain people across the required universe. So, but just to clarify, like these are all separate universes. They don't exist in the same thing, but there is the wonderful thing about playing with magic and playing with the opportunity to poke holes in time and space means that occasionally you can shine a flashlight into the world that you don't quite own, and your friend will be waving to you on the other side. So.
Were there any other Easter eggs in book 4?
So for readers who've also read and hopefully enjoyed the Gilded Wolves series, they'll notice that Enrique and Minnie have the same last name. And there's something that Minnie says when, yeah, a lot of people, yeah. They have the same last name, and there's a reason for that. I think it's one of the scenes with Rudy, and there's which is it? It's the Anywhere elevator, I think. They're trying to figure out how to open it. And
my family, they were freezing and melting the ice to get into a safe.
Yep.
I just got it. Yep. Look at that.
Look at that.
I was reading it and I was like, that sounds like something I've read somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know. Ta-da.
So,
ooh, I feel so bad now. I'm like, I didn't catch that. Probably people are gonna be like, how did you not see that, Diego?
So here's a pretty big spoiler question. So, Boo's death is a very important part of the end of the book. So, can you tell us about the decision to reincarnate him as a firebird?
Yeah, I really do mean this, and I know it sounds silly, but when I write those emotional scenes, or what I hope are emotional scenes in the books, I cry. And I cry for hours. Even in book 1 with the scene about the Palace of Illusions just feeling like this, abandoned puppy. I sobbed. I was like, this poor house is all alone and it just misses its people. So writing Boo's death was really difficult for me because I knew that in his current state and in his current state, he had to pay the consequences of the decisions he'd made. And I thought, especially with Boo and really with the Sleepers character, the ways that I wanted to explore their villainy was really inspired by that phrase, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That at every step of the way, not once were either of their decisions motivated by hate, but a very twisted love. Boo loves his band of girls. He adores them and he wants to be able to protect them, and he feels weakened and in his current state. And he thinks that maybe if he can just get back to how he was, he'll be in a better position to help them. And obviously that doesn't work. And I did want to allude to the curse that Boo is under that we know about in Tree of Wishes and how that all comes to play. And so the decision to reincarnate him is bittersweet because we are not going to have that funny, sassy pigeon mentor again, but we are going to have someone new and perhaps someone innocent, who has a chance to be free again, like kind of like a baby Groot sort of thing.
Yeah. I kind of see that. Like, we don't have any more Boo sassiness, but we're getting a little chirp chirp and some Oreo eating, which is fitting.
Just something new. And I think also that, I don't know, when I think about Boo's character, he must be so tired to just keep existing and always knowing all the things that you did wrong. Like, you never get a fresh slate, but now you do.
Yeah.
Well, maybe when we get to the 4th Aru Shah movie, we can have the Firebird get the same merch attention that Baby Groot did.
Yeah. Anything else is just disrespectful.
Boo plushies everywhere.
Yeah.
um, this is a question that we will probably get angry messages if we didn't ask.
Sure. Hit me.
Tell us a bit about Aru and Aiden and their story.
Their story. I think that, well, I'm going to be a little mean here. I think you'll just have to trust me and see how things play out in the fifth and final story. But, I will say, I assume you're talking about the scene at the end.
Yes.
Yes. I
Yes.
am such, how would I describe myself? I really feel that oftentimes I'm just this human embodiment of a dumpster, and I'm fine with that. But what I mean to say is I adore romance. I love romance so much. All I do is just sit in the dark and just ship characters. So I knew that the Aru Shah series was going to have romance in it, and I really wanted to play with expectations for what annoys us about love triangles, and especially like who we think are who we gosh, what am I trying to say? What we think somebody wants, and how they get it, but like all the things that can possibly just ruin it. I mean, especially when you think about Aru and Aiden's relationship, this is a relationship that's like essentially thousands of years old. like, like, it is always
That's a bit out of the ordinary.
yeah, I mean, they are this famous epic reincarnated couple. There's going to be ways in which that's remade, and perhaps it doesn't work in quite the way that they expect, or even the way I expect. There has to be sacrifices. Maybe not everybody makes it out alive. I don't know.
Oh.
That is...
I think one kind of small follow-up question for this. What is meant by death in that small prophecy that Aiden gets?
Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. No, but okay, truthfully, that was okay. So to me, and I realize I'm speaking from just being a diehard romantic, but I do think that when you love someone and when you're in a relationship, it goes through periods of life and death in itself, because ultimately what you want is to be able to change with the person you've chosen to be your life partner. And I don't think things like that should ever be easy. I think that if you really can commit to something, or if you really can be honest with yourself about your feelings, it requires the death of something else within you. Does that make sense? I know that's like really like,
ooh, whoa.
I know it's a lot.
I don't know. I don't know if I can comment on that.
It sounded correct.
It
sounded correct. I can't really speak to that, but
oh gosh. No, yeah, you can't speak to it yet. One day true love will find you on wings and in a shower of rainbows and whatnot. I don't know. I have no idea, but I predict good things for everybody. But yeah, especially in writing that prophecy, the big thing for me was basically, I want my characters to say things out loud. I want them to work stuff out on the page. And that prophecy, that cost, that consequence means that someone's going to have a choice to make. And I don't know if they're going to be able to rise to the challenge. So, dun, dun, dun.
dun, dun. I think another something that I kind of foresaw as I was reading it, but I was not totally sure about, is that when Aru is picking up the Astra or Astra, how do you say
Yeah, you said it right.
Astra. And she says that only another Pandava can take it from her, and Kubera just looks right back at her and is like shaking his head. Can you tell us why? Is there like something, maybe explained in the fifth book, but is there like Aru Shah mythical magic explanation to why Sunny doesn't disappear when the godly weapons are destroyed?
Oh, the reason for that is just because Kara is the one controlling it, right? Like the moment
Mm.
she breaks the necklace and makes that really devastating choice, honestly, is because now like it doesn't affect her because it's essentially her will deciding how everything else is destroyed around her.
Mm.
Wow. And as a kind of follow-up question, can you tell us what it was like kind of writing that scene? Because that was a very,
Horrible.
yeah.
Horrible. I had such a bad day. I cried. My husband came home, and this poor guy is like, he's a resident. He's in the middle of residency doing orthopedic surgery during the middle of a pandemic. So he comes home every day and he's like blood splattered. And like, sometimes these is very bad days where people don't make it, or that he'll get like smacked in the face by an unconscious person, and those are kind of funny days. But he came home and like he has clearly had a bad day. He is like covered in blood and he's looking at me, and I'm just crying in the dark in my office, and he's like, oh my god, what's wrong? Or like, did something happen? Is the cat okay? This is usually his first question: is the cat okay? And I was just like, no, I had to write this really sad scene, and Aru's birthday was ruined. And he just looked at me, and then he was like, ugh, and then he walked away. And I was like, come back so I can talk to you about my feelings. It was genuinely a hard scene to write. And truthfully, writing Kara was an interesting experience. I did not start off the book liking her at all. In fact, I
Ooh.
kind of hated her. I was like, this person is the worst. She's the worst. I don't like her. La la la.
And you knew what she was going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, it took me halfway through book 5, and then I realized that I was doing her a major disservice because I could feel, as I was writing, the dialogue and having the characters talk to each other, that she was a character who had a lot to say. And she was the sort of person who, in a way, a little bit like Rudy, really just wanted to be part of something. What she wants the most is family. And in a way, she does find that with the potatoes. And
She throws it away.
yeah, I mean, but does she, or does she, when we think about a villain, or what we really consider an antagonist, to them, they are the hero of their own story. And unless, the fact that she's operating from a place of love, just like the sleeper, just like Boo, was really, really sad to me, because the sleeper and Boo, in a way, they don't have as much of an excuse. They're adults. They should know better. But Kara is Aru's age. And when you're that age, you rely on the people who are supposed to love and protect you and guide you to make the right choices, to steer you in the right direction. And this is a girl who has so much love, and because of her own pain and her own trauma and just how she's been brought up, she's lost. So that's why it was hard to write.
Mm.
Aww.
I know. It's
That's
really sad.
it was sad reading it, and now hearing about writing it makes me sadder.
I know. It's all sad. Writing is just deeply like emotionally traumatic, which is again why I'm often found writing in a blanket.
I think doing anything in a blanket is probably the best way to do something. Just being in blankets is good. I feel.
Oh,
It gives you protection.
God.
Makes you nice and cozy. Um I do have another question that is kind of touching upon a subject that we spoke about last time, and kind of was more apparent in the Song of Death, and was more touched upon. A Song of Death, Tree of Wishes. Look, no, it was in the Song of Death that I'm talking about, I believe. So not last time we spoke, but I think we did speak about it last time. The idea of how stories can be misinterpreted, and like characters that seem like villains aren't really, and how you explore that with Lady M.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're kind of left at the end with this idea of the search for the nectar of immortality, that was the key object in Aru Shah and the Song of Death, and how Lady M was mentioning that she was trying to like fix the stories of the misunderstood villains of mythology, and that this was a plan that she was doing in concert with the sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean, is the sleeper still thinking about this as his end goal, or is he searching for the nectar of immortality for another reason?
I think this is still his end goal. I mean, I think what he just wants really is the most powerful substance in the world, and once he has that, I imagine that he thinks everything else will just fall into place, because once you have those godlike powers, you can unwind time, you can change people's minds, you can literally pull the worst Thanos move ever if you wanted to. And I think that for him, that's what he considers rewriting the past.
It's more of a, he doesn't really know what he's going to do when he gets it, but it's kind of his last hope.
Last hope. Yes, that's exactly it.
Wow.
So those are kind of most of our book 4 spoiler questions, but again, you probably can't tell us a lot, but I mean, what's happening in book 5, the last Aru Shah book?
Yeah.
The last one.
The last, my gosh. So I am actually very close to the 60,000 word mark on the book right now, which is exciting because hopefully that means I'm more than halfway. Like a 500,000 word book. But when I first started writing Aru, I already knew the last line of the series. I always know the last line of all of my books. Yeah, I don't know. It's something that makes me feel like once I know how it ends, I feel like I can reverse engineer how they get there. And so RE5 has been really, really fun to write. In a way, it's got, I guess, the philosophical tones, I suppose, of Arusha and the Tree of Wishes, which I really enjoyed writing. I really get to showcase each of the girls and how they really feel, because where we leave them at the end of book 4 is they are now robbed of these huge godly celestial weapons, and I think that it messes with them, right? Like, I mean, without it, who are they? What's a demigod without any power? You're just somebody who's just like, my dad's really cool, but you're just gonna take my word for it, and there's a lot of reckoning about what it means to be powerful, and the choices that you make when you're trying to seek power, I guess. And yeah, there's been a couple fun scenes I didn't really like, I'd written as a joke in my head, and then I ended up literally putting on the page. And one of them, I'll tell you, is well, just this one is like a sort of apocalypse Coachella scene. So I really loved the idea of the potatoes sort of being stuck in this bizarro talent show and like needing to get out of it. But the thing is that they don't have any talent, except like Rudy actually does have musical talent, and Aiden can sing exceptionally well, but he hates when anyone knows that. He like doesn't want to showcase it at all because it's an obscure power, and then Aru just does something really stupid and embarrassing. So like it's just tough. So what happened in that scene was I got to tap into Aiden's family. We know that he's the descendant of Malini. His mom is Malini, this super famous, or once very famous Apsara. But what about her family? And why have they never reached out to him? And he obviously has like a lot of baggage when it comes to the supernatural side of his family, and how he feels really disappointed in them for not being there for him and his mom after his parents divorced. So I got to write about that, and that was really fun. That was really fun for me, and it also opened up it opened up the book in terms of, gosh, sorry, I'm so rambly, but when we talk about and like the people whose stories were never told or were never celebrated, that's the kind of thing that I really tapped into with Aru Shah and the Nectar of Immortality. It was figuring out what other stories have we been missing? Like why don't we know them? Why don't we know about these people?
Yeah.
And especially why don't we know about these women? So many times it's the perspectives of women
Just
from,
somebody who's getting kidnapped or
yeah,
married and
right.
then disappears from the story.
Exactly. You're just somebody who caught a very powerful man's eye, and that's not cool. Like there is more, there is always more to that story. So, yeah, I really enjoyed writing that. And it was really awkward for Aiden. I mean, he hated every second of this.
But I feel like that's something that obviously, like, I didn't grow up with these stories, so I don't really know the other side of them. I know the side I read from your books and the side I research when trying to predict your books. Um, but I think that's something that when writing mythology, like in the modern time, and this whole archetype obviously of Rick Riordan presents of writing in stories with mythological inspirations,
Mhm.
it's important to reanalyze these myths and put them in and kind of write them in a way that is more appropriate for the century or the for the millennia we live in.
Right.
Because the way that they were originally written isn't, it leaves things out and it makes it's outdated.
Yeah.
And I think this rewriting of it is something that's really important to Arusha, and I think really important in general, just since mythology is kind of the stories of the world.
Yeah. I think you put that beautifully and very, very elegantly. I,
Thank you.
I, one thing that I love about the Rick Riordan Presents line and what Rick has done as a storyteller is constantly reminding readers that mythology is a living thing. And one of the challenges, especially with writing Arusha, is, well, for example, my husband and I and half my family are practicing Hindus. And Hindu mythology is inextricable from the religious practice of it. So you're essentially playing with the sacred, and there's you have to tiptoe carefully on it. Other people can get very, very mad, and not everybody likes what I'm doing. But
Oh,
for me and for writing for myself, my cousins, and what I imagine are people like me who grew up as second generation Americans and wanting to tap into a part of our heritage we didn't that we didn't grow up and it wasn't the majority culture around us. It made the stories accessible again. And that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that's just a really good way to put it, and a great way to just kind of to just tell these stories and tell them to people who want to hear them in this new great way that you're writing them. So we're moving into our last couple questions,
yeah.
and
Um,
this one actually kind of is right on the topic we were talking about. Diego, you want to ask it?
yeah, sure thing. Yeah, it kind of pretty good follow-up question is, obviously when you write these books and when you write these stories, they're meant for kids to read. And you mentioned that ideally it'd be kids who kind of had similar experiences to you and maybe weren't able to always connect with this part of themselves.
Mhm.
And kind of in a general sense, but maybe if you want to narrow the question down, what do you want kids to take away from the Arusha series and from this book specifically, but also the series as a whole?
Wow. Well, there's a couple things I hope that they take away, but really what it comes down to is um, there's no such thing as one version of a story. And it's something that I think becomes more important the older that you get, especially when you consider the year that we just survived in 2020 with massive amounts of inaccurate information flying around, vile rumors about marginalized groups, and people saying, "Oh, I think that's true because I read it here." And, or I found it on this thing, or it was in a Tumblr meme by some conspiracy, whatever, that's really fun and popular. That's what I mean when I say there's more than one story. And it really falls on the individual to question what they're told and to really do the hard digging, not just to find a story that agrees with your point of view, but to constantly be challenging yourself about about who's telling you the story. Where can you find accurate information? And in pursuing that, remembering that sometimes the best thing that we can do as human beings is to remember how to listen compassionately to each other. And I hope that that's something people take away from the series.
And I'm just so glad that that's a lesson we can learn from a series with lightning and hoverboards.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't want that? I would want that, because but now as I, approach my new decade of decrepitude, I would probably I got onto these things. I like keep breaking bones and just falling apart, and I don't know, it's fine.
Yeah, I think Samuel, one final question. Um
Yeah, I did want to end kind of on a goofy note. So do you have a favorite sort of weird or funny fan interaction?
Oh my God.
or interactions.
Interactions. Well, I haven't seen anybody in like 2 years or a year or so. So nothing too recent, but I do remember once, I forgot which festival I was at, but I guess somebody was dressed up as Moaning Myrtle from Harry Potter, and they asked me to sign a toilet seat. So that was a lot. I was, and the idiot that I am, I signed it. And afterwards I was like, where did you get the toilet seat from? And then I was like, why did I ask that? I don't need to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I got to go home. So
who
That's
is your
great.
supplier?
who's your supplier? This is a terrible day. Well, this has nothing to do with anything, but God, I adore my family so much. They are so funny and they are deeply weird individuals. And my dad, I don't know, maybe one day I'll do a tour of my parents' home, but you can't walk 5 feet without bumping into an antique or some scimitar or whatever. And I remember I had a friend spend the night in high school, and she was staying in my brother's room and he was at a friend's house, and she put her hand under the pillow and pulled out like I don't know, some 14th century sword. And I was like, gosh, Josh, why did you leave it there? Like, who sleeps with a sword under their pillow? You know, a friend coming over. Anyway, and the reason why I tell this extremely random thing is because in my father's like never-ending pursuit of the weird, he once took us to a toilet factory, like a toilet making factory. And I was like, Dad, what are we doing? And I hate to admit this, but it was vaguely interesting. Ever since then, when the person like brought me this toilet seat, I was like, there's a lot of work that goes into true grade level porcelain of a toilet seat. So anyway,
I don't think you're appreciating this toilet seat enough and the craftsmanship that went into it.
Yeah, I talked about it for longer than I probably should have. And so that was it.
Yeah, so definitely
Youngling.
anyone listening who hasn't already, you definitely need to order Arusha City of Gold and the previous books in the series if you've managed to get to this point in the interview without having them. But Roshani, you want to tell us about any virtual tour spots that are left, or your social media or your website?
Yes,
How
yes.
people can learn more about you?
Yes. Well, if you would like to see me annoy the crap out of my cat, you can follow me on Instagram, Roshani Chokshi. I also share things like the cute clothes that I wear, which I have to admit are very shiny. All right. And then I'm literally never on Twitter because I think it's a cesspit. But if you're on Twitter and enjoy it, good for you.
I was wondering where I heard that voice in the book.
That was enjoyable for me to write.
that was Bryn.
Yeah, sometimes my own opinions, well, oftentimes my own opinions sneak into my writing. Yeah, so you can find me on my website and you can find me on Instagram. I try very, very hard to answer all emails that are sent to me through the website contact form. And let's see, other upcoming events. On Wednesday, April 14th, I've got an event with this what is it? The storyteller of the gods himself, Rick Riordan.
Oh,
That'll be super, super fun. And I think that's actually going to be my last event. And then I'm going to, I just need to get back to work on writing. And that's it. That's all I've got. We may announce like something that doesn't have to do with Aru Shah, but does have to do with my first series, The Star Touched Queen, sometime at the end of April, I think. So just watch my social media channels and you will find it.
Be on the lookout.
Nice. And yeah, thanks again for joining us, Roshani. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
You guys are the best. Truly, truly, truly. Thank you for having me.
And that's it for this episode of the Half-Blood Report. Thanks again so much to Rosh for joining us. Samuel, how can I contact this podcast?
You can follow the show on Twitter at Half Report. You can also find us on Instagram at The Half-Blood Report, or email the show at thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com. We also have a website, thehalfbloodreport.com.
And as you may already know, we dropped merch.
Yep, we got a t-shirt and hoodies with drawings of the both of us on it. The shirts look amazing, and there's a link to buying them in the description. Thanks to Mallow Mocha on Instagram for making the drawings. Mallow Mocha is also Diego's IRL friend, so that's something.
Very cool. Yep, you can use the code outro at checkout for $3 off, and please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We read and respond to those on our seasonal mailbag episodes, which may or may not be coming soon.
Yeah,
possibly.
Anyways, thanks to all of you for listening.
Yeah, but that being said, it's time for credits. Our theme music is actually by the fantabulous me.
I do our editing. My co-host here is the fantabulous Diego. And I'm Samuel.
This is the Half-Blood Report podcast, the only HBR that matters. Survive till the next week after this one.
I'm Roshani Chokshi. I'm the author of the Aru Shah series, and I definitely do not listen to the Half-Blood Report.